He works well at home, and he kind of had that twinkle in his eye when he spoke about his handicap mark. Hello and welcome along to the Let's Talk Racing YouTube channel in association with Racing TV. We are at the handicap stage. I'm so excited. This video we're going to be delving into every single handicap at the 2022 Cheltenham Festival, highlighting horses that we like, not set on at this stage because we are still 2.5 weeks out, but we will be highlighting horses that we like as well as handicap marks that you might need to get into races. If you do enjoy the video, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll get into it. I've really enjoyed the build up to this year's Cheltenham Festival. The moment the Martin Pipe finishes, I'm going to be sad.
Yeah, of course you do. At the end of Cheltenham, there's always a bit of a deflation, a bit like a balloon that's lost its air. But then, around a day later, you pick yourself back up and you try find the next Bardenstown lad, and we go again. So there's obviously still plenty of racing. We'll be covering Aintree, Punchestown, Ferryhouse with a fine-tooth comb over the coming months as well. But it's been brilliant. This build-up in the next 2 weeks, we will be ramping it up.
Big time. Our official Cheltenham preview videos will be as follows. So on the 8th, the Tuesday before the Tuesday of the festival, we'll have the Tuesday preview. On the 9th, we'll have the Wednesday. On the 10th, we'll have the Thursday. And on the 11th, we'll have the Friday. And then I think on the Monday, we're going to stitch them all together. So there's one big, long video, but there's going to be nothing different, just simply a big, chunky video if you didn't want to watch all 4 separately. Great to see that the caps are out and about. The details for the private preview evening will be sent out in the next couple of days. If you haven't got your cap yet, don't worry, they are on their way as we literally speak, so they will be coming in the next couple of days. But this video is mainly talking about the Cheltenham handicaps, and later on we do have a couple of updates from Paul Nicholls and Dan Skelton. This video last year was one of my favourite videos that we ever made, so I'm looking forward to doing it again. The first handicap of the whole festival is the 3 miles Ultima handicap chase on the first day. One of those races where you go from such a good Supreme, maybe a good Arkle, to then a handicap, and this race is traditionally a bit of a minefield, but the British win it, which is quite a rarity. I should mention that the handicap mark that you're probably going to have to get into this race would be roughly 136 to 138, so anything below that would definitely be a worry, and the top weight is usually 156 to 158. Very hard. Is there one that sticks out for you in here?
Yeah, it looks a tricky race, and as you say, the Irish have a brutal record in the race. Obviously Discorama ran very well in the race a couple of years ago, but that's kind of the only one that's gone very close in recent years. The horse that sticks out to me, I'm hoping he fits a lot of the right trends, is the Twiston Davis horse in at Fantasticas at 16 to 1. He's a horse I like an awful lot for this race, off a mark of 144. He's run 4 times over fences. He's got course form behind Laham Press. He's got good graded form behind 300 through 5. It's going to be probably an 8-10 to 1 shot for the Brown Advisory the following day. And he's won 2 novices handicap chases, including at Lingfield last time out. Nigel Twiston Davis, he's had a reduced team this year, but he's had some great success at the previous Cheltenham meetings, and he's the type of trainer that can get them ready for these types of handicaps. And I think with Sam Twiston Davis, who's also having a very good year in the saddle, hopefully this horse will run. I think 16 to 1 non-runner no bet, a cracking price at the moment, because obviously if he doesn't run you get your money back, but I think it'll be a much shorter price on the day.
Interesting. It's a difficult race to go through. I've gone through it many times and I still can't get my head around it fully, but the one that did stick out, as you mentioned, is Fantasticas for Nigel Twiston Davis, and I do agree, 16 to 1 non-runner no bet each way. The one slight doubt is there was rumours that he could go to the Scottish National. I went back and tried to find any information I could, and Imperial Racing, the owners, or the syndicate managers, said on the 25th of February that no decision has been made yet. So I think it's very much 50-50 whether he'll run here or be saved for the Scottish National. The next handicap is a very difficult one as well. The 2 mile Boodles Juvenile Handicap Hurdle. You're probably going to need 128 to 129 to guarantee you get in here. And then top weight is usually around 140, 141. That being said, we've got a 4 to 1 anti-post favourite in Gaelic Warrior, trained by Willie Mullins, a master. He's had 3 runs in France. He's never run over here. How is he 4-1?
I suppose people are thinking he's very well in, and there seems to be an awful lot of talk. I was at Nace today, and all the talk around the betting ring was about this horse. There was rumours doing the rounds that if the Irish handicapper had to have assessed him first up, that he'd have assessed him in and around the 140 mark. But they went and got a mark in Britain first, so the British handicapper couldn't backtrack, and he gave him 129. So the rumour on the street is this could be a good thing. That wasn't music to my ears. I put up 2 horses for this race in the anti-post videos, both of which, if they were to run, would have chances. HMS Seahorse being one. He's 12-1. I've talked about him a few times. He hasn't got a rating in Ireland just yet, but he's ran to RPRs in the mid 120s. Should get in off the high 120s, early 130s. And Vera Verso, she's entered for the race, which was a good sign, but she's got an Irish rating of 117, and unless it's like last year, which was an anomaly where the bottom weight was 123, she's going to struggle to get in. So unfortunately that looks like it might be touch and go. She would actually have a chance if she got in off a bottom weight, but HMS Seahorse probably flying the flag for me. But the rumour on the street is this Gaelic Warrior could well be very chucked in.
I heard Willie Mullins today say that he works well at home, and he kind of had that twinkle in his eye when he spoke about his handicap mark. He was very open. He said 129 seems quite fair and might be quite lenient. And I think the form in France is working out. Look, I would not be a French racing expert by any means, but good people say that it's good form, and I'll believe those. That being said, traditionally in a race like this, you need lots of experience, whether that be over hurdles or on the flat. Cheltenham isn't the easiest race course to jump in on, especially a 4-year-old handicap hurdle with 22 runners going hell for leather. I'm not doubting that he could be extremely well handicapped, but I think he's going to have to be extremely well handicapped to win this. I get the angle, he probably is well handicapped, but to do that in those conditions at Cheltenham, at the festival, with the buzz there, jumping our hurdles for the very first time is going to take some doing, and I'm definitely going to let him win at 4-1. I might have pie in my face, and he might be an absolute good thing, might go off 11-8 and win. I can't see it happening personally, but I think I'd let him. There's 3 in there that I like, and this is not a video where we're going to put our final selections up. Our final selections will be over on Twitter the morning or the night before of each race, so do follow us down below. The 3 that I'm leaning towards at the moment is the Tide Turns at 5-1, the second fab. I think he's classy. He ran against the Elders in the Red Mills. It was obviously a ride that Gordon Elliott was just desperate to get him qualify for the race, have 3 runs, get my handicap mark, and I don't think he was given a necessarily tough time. Champion Green, I've liked him all season. He's currently 8-1. He had a lofty reputation at the start of the year, and they're talking about the Triumph Hurdle with this horse. He definitely needs to learn to settle, but he's got the ability, and I do think a big field and a fast pace would help him. And then the one at a big price that I would give a worthy mention to is Ben Siegel at 33-1 each way. Same connections as last year's winner and Jeff Kidder, and a very similar profile, ran in similar races, and it wouldn't surprise me, although I think he was beaten something like 80 plus lengths the last day, that he was to go very close, and they've had this race in mind the whole time. I think he's got an Irish rating of 127 as well, so he should get in quite comfortably. The next race is the 2-mile-5 Coral Cup Handicap Hurdle, probably 135 to 136 to get in. Is there one in here that sticks out for you?
I think this is the Coral Cup for me is usually one of the trickiest of all the lot of them. I don't have a massively great record in the race. I think the horse that probably does it for me, and he has to go and defy a big rise from his Ascot win, is not the one people are going to think of, which is the favourite Good Risk at All, but Unexpected Party. I just think he's got a nice profile for this race. He's also got the right running style for this race. I know, heaven help us, tore away from the front, but when you look back at the Coral Cup in years gone by, it usually suits a strong travelling hold-up horse because they go too quick. There's too much on early doors. This horse sits well off the pace. He was second at Cheltenham back in the November meeting to Gowell Road. I know Gowell Road's quite well fancied for this race. I just have a niggling doubt in my mind with Gowell Road with what he did in the county hurdle last year. I was really big on him, and he just was an absolute no-shower, and I think he might be in the skirmishes. He wouldn't be able to dictate out in front like he did at November, and it might suit a running style more like Unexpected Party. He's been gradually progressing. He was really good at Ascot last time out, beating Fee Duderie. He was a good horse in his own right, and at 9-10-1 he'd be probably my play, but it wouldn't be one of my strongest of the week. The Coral Cup certainly wouldn't be my strongest handicap ever in the Cheltenham Festivals in years gone by.
I would definitely probably go for an outsider, and the one that I look at, and I've mentioned it a couple of times in the podcast, is Call Me Lord at 40 to 1 each way. He's not got the sexiest profile in the world. He's not a young horse on the way up or a novice, but he's extremely experienced, and he's been to Cheltenham actually 3 times. The first time was when he won the International Hurdle in 2019, the Grade 2 in December. The second time was when he was 13th in the 2020 Champion Hurdle. The last time he was at Cheltenham was in the 2020 International Hurdle, and he was beaten 7 lengths. He was once rated 160. He's now off 142, and I've looked back at his runs this season. I'm not sure why he's dropped so dramatically. I thought the run in the Lanzarote was very encouraging. I thought the run the other day at Sandown wasn't as bad as the winning distance would suggest, or the difference between him and the winner. And he doesn't have a profile who's too dissimilar to William Henry, who won the race for the same trainer, Nicky Henderson. So Call Me Lord at 40 to 1 each way. I would be slightly more forgiving with Gower Road. I completely see the reason last year, but he was a 5-year-old then running in a county hurdle, so I'm probably willing to forgive him that run. He is a 6-year-old on the improve, and I thought it was a good second to Metier last time out. I think he's matured mentally as well as physically this year, so I think he's a better horse. And I do think at 16 to 1, if I wasn't going to go for Call Me Lord at a big price, I'd probably stick with him. The next handicap is the 2-mile Grand Annual Handicap Chase, and you're probably going to need 138 to 139 to guarantee you get in. And top weight's usually 155 to 156. Although this year I do think that'd be slightly lower because you've got horses like Funambule, Sevilla, who are not going to run here, and I can't see many other classy 2-mile handicappers that will run here over the Champion Chase. The likes of Editeur de Gite, I think they'll go Champion Chase. If I was chinned on the line last year with my nap at the festival in Intucus, it's still painful. But I'm hoping to make amends this year with a horse that I think we both like.
Yeah, of course, I'll let you take it away with Buddy Rich. I think people have probably heard enough of him on this podcast, a bit like Bardenstown lad, but he's got a massive chance. I'm sure you can tell them through it.
Yeah, he's currently 9 to 1. I just really like him. He's one of those horses that does stick out, but he's a novice chaser, and back in October at the Cheltenham meeting there, he was given quite a quiet ride, I think it's fair to say, 8 lengths behind Third Time Lucky, who was impressive that day. David Russell came over for the ride. He's got Cheltenham experience, which would definitely be a benefit in a big race like this. He's been put away since. I think he prefers spring ground, and he's just one of those horses that I think in November, when he had that second run after Cheltenham, Gordon Elliott thought, okay, we're going to put this lad away. We don't want to change his handicap mark, and he'll go straight to the Grand Annual. That seems the plan. It's Gordon's only dart in the race. You know you're going to have Davy Russell on board. I just think that he's going to go mightily, mightily close.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you in everything you've said there, Josh. I've been a fan of him, like yourself, throughout the season. He just screams like he has the profile for the race. He's going to be Gordon's only runner in the race, and we're going to have races throughout the week in handicaps where it's going to be hard just pinpointing which Gordon horse, because it could be 3 or 4 of them. But no, Buddy Rich looks to have a big chance. If you wanted one at a massive price, one that I've certainly had a look over is Exit Poll for Jesse Harrington, in there around the 25 to 1 mark. Not sure whether the horse will go over, but it is non-runner, no bet. He's got a nice enough level of form. He likes better ground, and Jesse's got a very good record in this Grand Annual race. So one to keep probably the right side of if he was to run. He'd be up in the mid to late 140s. So he probably doesn't have too much room for manoeuvre off his mark, but might be the type of solid horse to run a good race.
The next handicap is the 3-mile Pertemps Network Final Handicap Hurdle, and I think you probably need 136 to get in for this year's renewal, and top weight will probably be 152 to 154. It's quite interesting this year because I think there was one less Irish qualifier, or that qualifier was moved to the start of the season. So there's been very few opportunities, and I remember a couple of weeks ago we mentioned that we expect the big Irish trainers to send some of their horses that are not yet qualified, that are in the betting, over here, and not many have really. I've been quite surprised, and because of that I think that this race will be weaker than years gone by. I know that plenty of horses, the likes of Presenting Percy, Delta Work, have come out of this and then won Grade 1s at the Cheltenham Festival, have gone very close. What do you think about the Pertemps? Because it's a difficult one, because Gordon's going to chuck 6 or 7 at it.
Yeah, very, very difficult race to get my head round, really. I just think, and I quite like the horse personally. I've actually got a lovely photo with the horse when you kindly brought us over to Fergus, but I can't see the angle behind Alaphilippe being top of the market here whatsoever, really. I thought Imperial Alcazar was a much better horse than him last year, and he couldn't get the job done, was well down the field. And personally speaking, I know you quite like one of them, but I think potentially the Morans might have the plays in the Pertemps there. They've got Tully Beg, who I know you are quite sweet on, but also they have Volcano. And I don't know whether Volcano will run in this race or the Martin Pipe, but whatever race he runs in, I'll be backing him, because I think he's a very well handicapped horse. He's been, again, very similarly campaigned to the likes of a Buddy Rich. He ran in his Pertemps qualifier very early in the season, snuck into 6th. Brian Cooper was probably getting high fives in the parade ring. Somehow he managed to burgle him into 6th on the line. Then was well backed for a 2-mile 4 handicap hurdle, and Navan came 4th, very close, only was beaten a half length, and has been put away since. So he's going to arrive at Cheltenham very fresh. He was well backed right before the off in the Martin Pipe last year, got brought down at the first. I think there's a very well handicapped horse in there. And between Volcano and Tully Beg, Volcano's 12-1, Tully Beg's 14-1. They'd be my plays at the moment in the race.
I do like Tully Beg. He's 14-1 currently. I think I'd back him each way for that race. It looks like he's guaranteed to run here. And then one more in the race that I would just like to mention quickly is Winter Fog for Emmett Mullins. 12-1 each way, second in the Leopardstown qualifier, and that usually, historically, has worked out very well. He's lightly raced. Emmett Mullins is a target trainer. You saw that last year with the shunter. Wouldn't surprise me if Winter Fog was to go well. The next race is the 2-mile 5 Paddy Power Plate handicap chase, and I think you probably need 137 to 138 to get in, and top weight is going to be 155, 156, roughly. I don't have one in this, so I'm hoping, Andrew, you can point me in the right direction.
Well, I've had a bit of an epiphany moment in this race, Josh, over the last day or two, because the ones at the top of the market don't inspire me with any confidence. I don't know how people are taking 4-1, 5-1, about a 10-year-old in Celebra Dalen for Philip Hobbs. He beat a 12-year-old at Warwick last time out. I don't know how people are going in on that. He might go and win, and fair enough if he goes and does so, but wouldn't be for me. Birchdale, not really for me. I thought he was well off the last day at Leopardstown, and he got his day in the sun. And I've just been thinking about things, and he's going to be in off that 155, 156, I think, because he's currently rated 152 in Ireland. But if they get a good conditional, a £5 claimer like Jack Foley, maybe even a £7 claimer, back on last year's winner, the shunter, I think he's got a superb chance in this race. I don't see where else they run him. He's not a grade 1 horse. He's not going to run in the Ryanair. I don't know where else you go, really. He came 4th in the Galway Plate off 153, and only beaten a length and a half by Royal Rendezvous, so you know he can compete off these marks. He won the race last year with stones in hand under Jordan Gainford. It is probably going to take a big ask, and probably going to take a really competent conditional being on him, because he's not the easiest ride in the world. But I just look at it, and I look at the rest at the top of the market and go, it's really not very inspiring. And this horse is around the 10-11-1 mark, and you know he's got Cheltenham form. You know Emmett Mullins is an absolute master with these horses, and I just think there's an awful lot going for him. Grand Paradis is one, I don't know, he might turn up in one of these handicaps, but he's been a bit of a mule this year. He can't jump. He's been a bit disappointing. He's been well backed a few times and hasn't delivered. Now, that sometimes can be the case with these Gordon horses, and they'll suddenly rock up at Cheltenham and they'll be spring-heeled and jump like Denman. But I can't quite bring myself to back him at the moment, and the shunter off top weight in this race might be the way to go.
Interesting. I'm glad you had a big call, because honestly I had no steer on this at all. I looked at it last night for 2 hours, couldn't pick one out I liked. I was trying to convince myself that Imperial Alcazar could be Thurgold's first winner at the Cheltenham Festival, and I thought 152, that's probably quite steep for him to do that, although he was impressive at Cheltenham the last day. Now let's move on to the 3 miles and 1 furlong Kim Muir handicap chase, the last race on the Thursday. Jockey bookings vital. I think you'll need 134 to 135 to get in, and then top weight is 145. You cannot go higher than that. That is the limit for this race. So the anti-post favourite Frontal Assault, I don't think he's going to be qualified to run in here. I think they're going to rate him higher than 145. I also have doubts that Grand Parody will be rated under 146. I can't see that happening. I would actually make a bold statement, and I don't think Frontal Assault or Grand Parody will run here. I don't think they'll be low enough to do so. I know they're two horses that are right at the top of the market, so that might be an interesting one. I still think Gordon Elliott holds the key, or one of the keys. You convinced me. You've definitely convinced me. Smoking Gun, 16-1 each way. Look, you've taken Tullybeg. I'm going to take a bit of Smoking Gun here. I love the run at Ferryhouse the last day. He should just scrape in under 145. I'm also going to make a big statement. I think Jamie Codd will ride Smoking Gun, 16-1 each way. And then the other one I give a chance to is Right Place, Right Time, actually running tomorrow off 130 at Carlisle. He'll need to win to get in, but I think that's a big hint in itself that they want to get his mark up. He was an agonising second at the Dublin Racing Festival in the 3-mile handicap hurdle. He was entered in the Coral Cup, and I don't think he's quick enough for him. He's entered in the Pertemps, he's not qualified. He's entered in the Kim Muir, needs to win tomorrow to get in. And then he's entered in the Martin Piper, and I just cannot see him running there. So the only viable option, I think, is the Kim Muir if he goes close tomorrow, which I think he will. And I know they have entered him in the Midlands National on the Saturday after Cheltenham. I suspect that'll be a bit of a case where if he doesn't get in the Kim Muir, they'll probably go there.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you've come on to the Smoking Gun bandwagon. Obviously put him up at 25-1 in one of the previous videos. I was very happy with his run at Ferryhouse. He's been left unchanged of 138 by the Irish handicapper. And as you say, it would be very, very harsh of the English handicap to put this horse up £8, considering he's relatively exposed compared to some of the others. And you look at the rest of the market, and as you say, if you get some of those Gordon Elliott horses maybe drifting over the 145, he quickly comes in. And I was going to say perhaps the likes of a Barry O'Neill might ride him. Maybe Jamie Codd would be, but Codd or O'Neill would be gold dust for that, and I think he'd be in a much shorter price if that was the case. The other one that interests me to a certain extent, if they were to go down this route, would be Champagne Platinum. There's also a chance he might be saved for the Irish Grand National for Enda Bulger. If he was to run in this, he might be Derek O'Connor's ride, which again would be very interesting. He's currently 18-1. He won a beginner's chase 2 starts back. He was second to Death Duty last time out. Again, he's rated high 130s in Ireland. Shouldn't go over 145. So if they wanted to go here, obviously connections JP and Derek O'Connor have won the Kim Muir a couple of times before. He might be the type that seems to be maturing, seems to be staying out his races a lot better these days than when he ran in the race a couple of years ago. So he might be one to keep the right side of. But Smoking Gun, definitely the number one for me.
There we go. I've joined the group on Barnes Town Lad and Smoking Gun now. The next race is the penultimate handicap of the Cheltenham Festival. It's the 2-mile 1 furlong county handicap hurdle, the second race on the Friday. I think 135 guarantees you get in. You might get in off 134 as well. And top weight's usually 154 to 155.
So you're getting to the stage where what does Willie Mullins run in what race? He said now about, I think, 6 different horses that they're running in the Supreme. And I don't want to say that Willie's lying to us all here, but I would be very, very shocked if all 6 of these horses are rocking up in the Supreme. And the one I just desperately urged Willie to run in this race is State Man. Just to preface what we're going to say for the Martin Pipe as well, I'd back him in any handicap, this horse. I think he could be chucked in. I think he actually could be a grade 1 horse. He looks to have an awful lot going about him. I think he would have won at Leopardstown at Christmas. He won easily at Limerick. And kind of he could be a San Juan type horse going into this race. He's 8-1 non-runner, no bet for the county hurdle. And the other horse in there, his only entry in the festival handicaps is Gringo Dobrel, which is a horse I've mentioned a few times. He's got 130 in Ireland, so he should be 134, 135. I think they're running him in this race potentially because they have a little bit of a reservation about him staying 2.5 miles at Cheltenham, which is fair enough because he did finish a bit tamely in the shallow hurdle when he came over. He's 20-1, again, one to keep the right side of.
I think you've hit the nail on the head with State Man. You look at his supreme options and the horses that he's mentioned that are going to go. We've got either Dysart Dynamo or Sir Gerhard. Kilcrut's definitely going to run. El Fabiolo's most likely going to run. And then today there was a winner, Bring On The Night as well. And I think there's a couple of others that he's mentioned for the race. State Man, to me, although he was a Limerick Maiden Hurdle winner and he was very impressive, I actually think it's hard to imagine that the handicapper can give him more than 145 based off he's only won one maiden hurdle. I know he came down at Leopardstown when he was looking like he was going to win, and that did look quite strong. It was over Christmas. I think if he was to race him over 145, it would be purely on reputation, and I'm not sure that would be fair. He might do, and I think if he rates him 146 or 147, he could run here. However, I think if he rates him 145 or below, he'll definitely go to the Martin Pipe. I see him being, like you mentioned, Saint-Rois or this year's Galopin des Champs. I think he is a Grade 1 horse. The yard seems to love him, and I think he's extremely talented. And it wouldn't surprise me if he was to make a mockery of a mark in the mid-140s in a race like this or the Martin Pipe. If he wasn't to run here, there might be a Springer, and the one that I like is Tax for Max, also trained by Willie Mullins. And it's a big if he runs here, but I do think it's quite an interesting entry because we've not actually seen him since July at Galway when he was second behind Far Out, who since ran well later on in the calendar year. His first start in Ireland was second, 7 lengths behind Tiupu, and then he was 6th in the Triumph Hurdle, chucked in a very competitive race, ran no sort of race, was 25 lengths off Quilixios, but he's got a mark of 131. I feel that he could slip in here off 136, 137, and he might be well handicapped. If not for this race, maybe another handicap later down the line, something like Punchestown, but I think Tax for Max, he's only 5, but slipping under the radar, mainly because we've not seen him since July. So he's a horse that I've got an eye on. Now, let's get on to the 2 mile 4 furlong Martin Pipe handicap hurdle, one of my favourite races of the festival. Bottom weight's usually 136, 137, and top weight there is a limit, 145. You cannot be over that. I want to talk about Langadan because he's an interesting topic of conversation. He ran in this race last year of 135. He finished second, clearly laid out for the race, and he bumped into Galopin des Champs, who looks a freak. That looks brilliant form. He's now off 140. Do you share the same enthusiasm that many across the country that are looking forward to Langadan running in the Martin Pipe have?
Not particularly. I see the angle there. Obviously, it's just a very short price to be taking about him now. He probably is a well handicapped horse off 140, but I could probably list you off around 12 Irish novices that are going to end up running in this that are also going to be well handicapped. And is he going to beat all of them? I just feel there's going to be more than likely one horse that he's going to stretch into, and unlike perhaps some of the Irish novices that could run in this race, I don't think he is a Grade 1 horse by any stretch. I think he's just a well handicapped handicapper. That might end up being some type of graded novice chaser down the line if they went down that line. But you're probably going to get, if you do have a stake man in this race, you've got a genuine potential Grade 1 horse in time. There's another horse that's got the entries in the County Hurdle and the Martin Pipe for Willie Mullins being adamantly chosen, who I think is a very, very good horse. That he's ran second in a couple of maiden hurdles. He then absolutely dotted up a few weeks ago, and I think they're finally getting kind of to the end of his ability. And he again could be a graded horse next year, proper Grade 1, Grade 2 horse. So is Langadan going to beat all of these horses? Maybe he will, but 5 to 1's a very short price to find out.
I don't dislike him, and I do see the angle, but he's not a Grade 1 horse in my eyes. And this race, how often do you see Gordon Elliott, Willie Mullins chuck a Grade 1 winner in here down the line? For me, he's not one of those. I think last year was his opportunity. He bumped into Galopin des Champs. £5 higher is £5 less he's got in hand. State man, if he runs, I'll be all over him. I think it's important to touch on Hayu, who fell today actually. I know I mentioned him in the last video for this race. He didn't run in the Michael Purcell. That was a slightly strange one, but I still had faith that he could run well here and then maybe go to the Cheltenham. But he fell when in contention, 2 out. Not sure he'd have won, but I think he'd have been in the 3 maybe. But I suspect he'll definitely miss Cheltenham now. He's only 5. He had a hard fall. I don't think they want to give him a really tough time, so Hayu, I think that card is over, but it wasn't on a no bet. The winner of the Michael Purcell, the Goffer, I think is interesting. He's a big, beautiful horse, and I think he's going to make a smashing chaser down the line, and I do like that angle going into a race like this. I think he's 16 to 1. He would be one I've got my eyes on as well. So there we go.
Well, if we haven't picked out a winner out of that lot, well,
full permission after the Cheltenham Festival to go back and unsubscribe. Before we go, I've got a couple of updates. I was lucky enough to spend this morning with Paul Nicholls, who was on Luck on Sunday, and we were chatting away about different horses, and I thought it was quite interesting. ICO, who I think finished 4th in the Adonis at the weekend, I think he thinks a lot of this horse, and I think he could be top draw over 3 miles and a fence down the line. He even mentioned horses like Frodon and Clandazobo, saying that he's just as good, if not better, at this stage of his career than those, and he expects him to go that way. Matterhorn is a young juvenile that plenty thought we would see in the Adonis, but he's had a setback and he'll be a novice hurdler next year. I think Paul Nicholls is looking forward to getting Matterhorn out. Montmirail ran in the National Spirit Hurdle today at Fontwell, purely just a prep run for Aintree. That is the main target. And I asked him next year, would he go chasing? He said yes. I said, would you think Arkle? Would you think 2 miles with him? And he said, no way. He's not speedy enough. Pick Dory would be quicker than him, but he's a 3-mile chaser down the line. I mentioned Henry II, the exciting dual bumper winner. He's going to be campaigned almost identically to Stage Star and Brave Man's Game. I think they think he's going to go that route. I think they think he's good enough. He looks very smart, and there was definitely a twinkle in Paul Nicholls' eye when he was talking about Henry II. So I suspect his main target will be something like the Shallow and then on to the Ballymore. And I talked about Brave Man's Game. Paul isn't convinced that Willie is telling the complete truth when he's talking about the Turners with Galopin Des Champs. I don't think he fully trusts him that that's where he's going to go. That being said, I think he'd be pretty happy if he was to go that way. But I asked about the ground, would you be tempted if it was very testing to go for the 2.5 mile race? And he said, nope. If it was to be very testing, and it's not usually very testing on the second day of the Cheltenham Festival, we would not run in the 2.5 mile race. We wouldn't run in the 3 mile race, and we'd just go straight to Aintree. So worth noting, but I know they want to look after him, and the main aim, like he said many times, is the King George. What would be interesting is if Galopin Des Champs went for the 2.5 mile race and Brave Man's Game missed the festival due to ground, that race could be open. Anything could win that race. And then also Tom Messenger was in the studio as well, assistant to Dan Skelton, and I was talking to him, why isn't Chamblou in a handicap? And he said Dan would definitely consider running him in the Ultima, but the owner is quite keen to run him in the Ryanair. So it's definitely more owners rather than Dan. I think Dan is definitely open to the idea of him being well handicapped of 148. I enjoyed that a lot. We're counting down the days now. Yeah,
it'd be fantastic. Looking forward to a couple of Mondays' time when I'm on the plane over with my dad, and hopefully see you there and see plenty of the listeners and the subscribers over the 4 days. Hopefully plenty will be there. Plenty will be backing winners with us as well and having a few points.
I saw plenty of people message us on Twitter being like, is it definitely the feathered fish after racing on the Tuesday? We will be there. That is where we'll be. So if you've had a bad day, I probably won't turn up, actually. I'm looking forward to the week. I'm just counting down the days. I'm so excited. We get the handicap weights out on Tuesday. I think we'll do some form of follow-up video. As we always say, our final selections will be over on Twitter the day before the Cheltenham Festival. These are all horses we've just got an eye on. We're not set on these. We might be set on some of them, the likes of Smoking Gun, Buddy Rich. If you did enjoy this video, please hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you soon.